What leaves your lips may one day circle the globe, so speak with care and never throw words like stones. Words are not idle. They do not vanish into the wind without weight. They are born of breath and soul, and once they pass from the safety of your mind into the air, they take on a life of their own. A word, a sentence, a careless phrase may seem small in the moment, but it can unravel peace, invite danger, or spark flames that scorch far more than intended. We live in a world of echoes. What you say aloud has a way of returning to you, sometimes softened, sometimes sharpened, but always changed. It is the nature of sound, yes, but also the nature of human connection. People will remember not only what you say, but how you made them feel with those words. And if your words are weapons, even subtle ones, they may come back like boomerangs in the hands of the very people you never thought would throw them. So speak like someone who knows that each syllable is a spark, and even a spark can burn down a forest. There is a reason ancient people spoke of blessings and curses, not just as spiritual incantations, but as everyday language. A word could uplift a child or shame a woman. A sentence could start a war or heal a broken man. When you speak, you summon something from the invisible into the visible. You manifest intention, emotion, and belief into sound waves that press against someone else's skin, and so you must ask yourself every time, is what I am about to say sacred? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it true? But let's speak plainly, because life is not always a hymn or a prayer. Sometimes we say things in haste, in anger, in fear. We let words fly like arrows from the bow of emotion, only to regret the wound they cause. We speak out of turn, or speak too soon, or speak when silence would have been stronger. And in that moment, we forget the weight of our own voice. A careless confession, a thoughtless opinion, an unnecessary truth shared for the sake of being heard. These are not just acts of speech, but acts of vulnerability that may open doors best left closed. It is easy to forget that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not every person has earned the right to hold your thoughts in their hands. When you speak carelessly, you give strangers a map to your fears, your hopes, your flaws. You place the sacred on the table like bread and wine before those who may only want to feast and not nourish. And then you wonder why your spirit feels thin, why your peace feels fragile. It is because you did not guard your words as you would guard your most beloved. Speech is freedom, yes, but freedom without wisdom is dangerous. To be free to speak is not the same as being wise in what you speak. There is a strength in silence that many confuse with weakness, but there is nothing weak about choosing restraint. There is nothing passive about keeping your voice until the moment is right. That is discipline. That is power clothed in humility. When you know you could speak and still choose not to, that is when your voice becomes a blade too sharp for every occasion. Not all truths must be spoken. Not all thoughts must be aired. Some things grow stronger when protected from the noise of the world. And make no mistake, there are listeners among us who do not listen to understand, but to use. People who gather your words like dry leaves, storing them until they can use them to start fires. You think you're speaking your truth, but you're fueling their agenda. You believe you're being open, but you're being harvested. This is not paranoia. This is wisdom gathered from history and heartache, from betrayal and misinterpretation. It is the reason why elders say, talk little, watch much, because every word that leaves you becomes someone else's to twist, quote, remember, forget, or record. So when you open your mouth, remember that you are opening a gate, and you must be the keeper of that gate. Guard it. Dress your words in dignity. Let them stand tall like trees and not scatter like ash. Let your speech honor the place you came from and the person you are becoming, because you are not made of careless things. You are made of stories, of legacy, of dust and brilliance, and what you say must reflect that. You must rise to the occasion of your own voice, not because you are afraid, but because you are aware. Because you understand the power that lives on your tongue, and you have chosen wisely not to misuse it. There are truths meant for your spirit alone. Guard them not in fear, but in reverence. In a world that urges us to spill everything, to lay bare our souls for the comfort of connection or the illusion of intimacy, there remains a quiet holiness. in silence. The kind of silence that shelters what is sacred. Not all things must be shared. Not all feelings, memories, or stories were meant to be carried out into the open like offerings. Some things were stitched into your spirit for you alone to carry, to nurture, to understand in your own time and in your own way. The keeping of a secret does not mean shame. It means respect. It means discernment. It means you know the value of what you carry. We are living in an age where people are praised for exposure, how much they reveal, how loudly they confess, how quickly they offer up the inner parts of their lives to be seen. But what is visibility if it comes at the cost of your peace? What is honesty if it leaves your heart unguarded and exposed to those who have not proven themselves gentle with such weight? There is something holy about holding parts of yourself back from the world, not in the name of hiding, but in the name of preservation. Like a garden enclosed, some things must be protected to bloom. The truth is, not every soul is equipped to witness yours. Not every ear that hears you is a vessel of understanding. Not every face that nods is a friend to your spirit. You may speak a truth thinking it will free you, and yet find that it binds you in chains made by the judgments of others. This is not to say you should silence your pain or bury your joy or smother your stories. It means you must become a guardian of your soul's archives. You must know when to speak and when to hold silence like a warm stone in your hand, solid, grounding, and full of weight. You see, secrets are often misnamed. We think of secrets as things dark and hidden, buried in shame or curled in guilt. But a secret in its truest form is a treasure, a piece of your becoming, a memory or a thought too delicate to withstand the loud clamor of careless talk. It is not hidden because it is wrong. It is hidden because it is tender, because it is still unfolding, because it belongs to a sacred process not yet ready for display. And to treat such a secret like gossip or currency is to rob it of its dignity. When we speak before a moment has matured, we risk distorting the truth we mean to share. When we reveal a truth that is still tender, we allow others to mold it before we have found its true shape. What begins as honest expression can end in confusion or even harm simply because we offered up something still in progress. There is wisdom in waiting. There is power in holding something close until it ripens, until it becomes steady in your hands, until you can tell it not to release the weight, but to celebrate its meaning. People will tell you that openness is strength, and sometimes, yes, that is true. But there is another kind of strength that is quieter, the kind that does not need validation, applause, or sympathy, the kind that carries its truth in silence, knowing that not all healing must be public, not all growth must be witnessed. Some things grow best in the dark, like roots pushing into soil, like prayers whispered at midnight, like dreams that begin not in the speaking but in the holding. You may find that some people expect you to pour yourself out as proof of trust or love, but true trust does not demand exposure. It honors boundaries. It does not rush you to reveal, but waits with patience until you are ready. And even then, it never pulls too hard. It understands that what you keep to yourself is not a rejection, but a reverence for your own spirit, for your path, for the deep places you have yet to fully understand yourself. Keeping a part of yourself for yourself is not selfish, it is sacred selfhood. And if someone cannot accept the silence you hold around certain truths, then they are not ready for the music of your honesty. Your inner world is not an open book for all to read. It is a sacred text full of metaphor and mystery, revelation and rhythm. You do not owe your chapters to every curious passerby. You owe your truth first to yourself, and only then to those who have proven themselves quiet enough to truly hear you, not with ears, but with hearts. When you bleed, the wild world watches. Hide your open wounds while you heal, because there are those who see pain not as something to comfort, but as something to use. There are people who study your weakness not with compassion, but with calculation. And it is not always because they are cruel in the obvious ways, no. Sometimes they wear soft smiles, speak with honeyed words, and yet their eyes mark your trembling voice, your unsteady breath, your cracked confidence like a hunter marks a trail. So you must learn this lesson and learn it well. Not every truth is to be spoken where wolves gather. There is a time to share, yes, and a time to be held. But there is also a time to retreat, to become quiet, to pull the veil down over your soul while it mends. It is not cowardice to protect your pain. It is not weakness to refuse to lay bare your burdens in places where they will not be honored. There is strength in discretion. There is power in silence that says, I will heal on my terms, not yours. You owe no one the story of your brokenness while you are still bleeding. The world is not always safe for the wounded. In fact, it often feeds on the softness of those who have not yet rebuilt their armor. There are people who do not mean to harm you and still do. People who do not understand that some words are barbs even when spoken kindly. People who will offer advice, comparison, and commentary when what your spirit needs most is simple, quiet witnessing. But worse still, there are those who will store the knowledge of your weakness and keep it like a key. They'll wait. And when it serves their purpose, when power is at stake, when influence, when control, they will use it. Gently sometimes, casually, but always with impact. So do not be eager to announce your pain where you have not tested the ground. There is a quiet dignity in tending to your wounds away from the public eye, like an animal that crawls into the woods to heal where no predator can reach it. You too must know where your sanctuary lies. And more than that, you must know who has earned the right to sit near you in your most vulnerable hour. Healing is not performance. Pain is not entertainment. And when you speak your suffering into the wrong ears, it can echo back to you in distorted ways. Your story may be retold, your emotions misinterpreted, your truth reshaped until it no longer feels like yours at all. So protect your heart when it is tender. Do not hand over the fragile pieces of your soul to those who have not shown you they can carry them with clean hands. It is not cynical to be cautious. It is not bitterness. It is wisdom shaped by experience. And even if you have not yet been betrayed, understand this. Not all harm is dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet. A slight betrayal of trust, a careless remark made in passing, a private pain used as a punchline, a secret shared in whispers. These are wounds that do not bleed but bruise, and those bruises can linger longer than you think. Know also that there is no weakness in protecting your dignity. You may be walking through fire, carrying sorrow like a stone in your chest, and still you are not required to speak of it to every person who asks. Not everyone who inquires deserves an answer. Not everyone who listens will understand. Some will take your pain and measure it against their own. Some will use it to justify their behavior. Some will diminish it intentionally or not. And this too is why you must be selective, because your healing deserves sacred space, not judgment. You deserve to be met with gentleness, not comparison. And if you must speak, speak to the ones who have proven their hearts are soft places. The ones who do not rush your healing or try to fix what they cannot understand. The ones who sit with you in the silence and do not ask you to be more okay than you are. Those people are rare. You will know them by how you feel after you speak, lighter, not heavier, seen, not exposed, held, not handled. Until you find those people, it is not only acceptable but necessary to keep your wounds covered. The world has a hunger for brokenness, a strange fascination with struggle. It wraps suffering in spectacle, turns trauma into stories to be consumed. But your life is not a show. Your sorrow is not a scene to be acted out. You are not here to bleed for others' curiosity or entertainment. You are here to survive, to heal, to rise. And sometimes rising begins with the decision to be quiet, to protect what still hurts, to cradle the parts of yourself that tremble when the wind blows too hard. That is not hiding. That is surviving with intention. That is knowing the wildness of the world and still choosing to walk through it with your soul intact. Not every hope must be declared. Some must grow in the dark like seeds seeking the sun. There is a sacredness in dreams whispered only to your own heart. There is power in quiet longing, the kind that pulses within you without ever being spoken aloud. We have been told by the world to shout our ambitions, to chart our plans on vision boards for all to see, to speak our desires into the universe like a promise that must be honored. But there is another way, a gentler, more rooted way, the way of patience, the way of silence, the way of dreams that grow in secret soil until they are strong enough to break through the surface. Not every vision is ready for the world's eyes. Not every idea is ready to be named. Some dreams are too tender in their earliest form to be exposed to the harsh light of expectation, judgment, and doubt. When something is still forming in your spirit, still trembling, still becoming, it must be held close. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. A seed does not shout its name to the earth. It simply settles in, silent and still, and trusts that growth will come. And so must you trust your dreams, even when they are quiet, even when they ask you to hold them in your chest like secret prayers. There is a temptation to speak too soon, to declare too loudly, to share something beautiful before it has found its full shape. We want to be witnessed. We want to be encouraged. But when you speak too early, you may find that others' opinions enter your dream like weeds in a garden. They may not mean harm, but their doubt, their fear, their logic, spoken in gentle concern or blunt disbelief, can choke the tender sprout before it ever has a chance to rise. They will say things like, be realistic, how will that work? You should wait until the time is right. And suddenly what was once vibrant in your heart begins to feel foolish. It is not always malice. Sometimes it is love that speaks the loudest cautions. But love does not always understand vision. Love does not always see what you see. And even the well-meaning can become a storm to your still growing dream. That is why you must be discerning. Protect your vision like you would protect a flame in the wind. Cup your hands around it, shield it from the gusts, give it the time it needs to catch fire. When it is ready, it will light the whole sky, but until then, it is yours alone to tend. Some of the most powerful movements in life begin in silence, a decision made in the depth of night, a calling answered with no one else listening, a turning point that doesn't announce itself but shifts your whole direction. These are sacred moments. And to share them prematurely is to drain them of their quiet strength. You are not obligated to make your growth visible in order for it to be real. You are not required to explain the stirring in your soul just because someone asks, what's next? Let them ask, let them wonder. You have nothing to prove. Even the moon keeps part of herself hidden. Even the ocean holds secrets beneath her surface. You too are allowed to carry mysteries. You are allowed to dream in silence, to write your visions in journals never read by another, to hold your desires close to your chest, letting them warm your bones without ever having to set them on display. This is not secrecy born of shame. It is silence born of sovereignty. You are the keeper of your own flame. You decide when the fire is ready to be seen. And know this. Just because something is not spoken does not mean it is not real. Just because you have not declared it does not mean it is not powerful. There is a depth to unspoken vision that no audience can replicate. There is a magic in the unseen. Like roots growing deep before a tree rises, your dreams are doing their work below the surface. Quietly, steadily, trust that work. Do not interrupt it for the sake of appearances. Do not rush it for the comfort of being understood. There is nothing wrong with being private about what you desire. There is nothing wrong with being deliberate about who you tell and when and why. It is not secrecy, it is stewardship. You are stewarding something sacred, a hope that is still becoming, a path that is still revealing itself. And the world does not need to know where your feet are going before they have even taken their first step. Let the silence do its work. Let the darkness nourish what the light would too easily burn. Let the dream stay yours until it becomes too full not to overflow. You said expend key point 5 without any heading. In 700 words, don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy. ChatGPT said, your voice has power, and declaring loss before life declares it for you is a theft of your own destiny. There are moments in this world when the weight of hardship feels too much to carry, when the mountain in front of you seems too high to climb, and the road ahead too rough to walk. In those moments, the temptation to give up, to name defeat before it's fully formed, can feel like relief. You want to ease the burden of expectation, lower the weight of hope, let go before the fall arrives. But there is a danger in that kind of surrender. There's a danger in calling the end before the story has a chance to turn. Life is not always kind, but it is rarely as final as our fear wants us to believe. The human spirit is designed to endure. It is not made of glass, but of something older, something stronger, grit braided with grace. But when you speak defeat into the air, when you say, I can't, this will never work, it's over, you are not just naming your current condition, you are etching that reality into the future. Words once released do not vanish. They circle back, they influence thought, shape belief, and soon you find yourself living inside the prophecy you spoke aloud. And often, it was not the circumstances that failed you, it was the surrender to those words that collapsed the bridge before you could even try to cross it. There is a vast difference between acknowledging struggle and claiming failure. One is honest, the other is premature. To say I am tired is truth. To say I will never make it is prophecy. And you must be careful what you prophesy over your life, especially in your weakest hour. Pain distorts perception, grief dims the light. But your voice is a compass, a spell, a map. What you say to yourself matters even when no one else is listening, especially then. Because when you are alone with your thoughts, your voice becomes the most powerful one in the room. We have been taught to protect our bodies, but not our words. Taught to shield our homes and our wallets, but not our inner dialogue. And yet, the damage caused by the declarations we make in fear or fatigue can linger far longer than any physical wound. When you say, I'll never heal, the wound listens. When you say I'm not worthy, your spirit folds inward. You may not notice it immediately, but your choices begin to shift. Your posture changes, your dreams hesitate, your very breath shortens, because the body follows the words and the heart listens closely to what the mouth dares to say. Sometimes we declare defeat as a defense. If we name the failure first, it won't hurt as much when it comes. If we give up before we're pushed, we won't have to feel the pain of being knocked down. But this is not protection, it is preemptive surrender. And it robs you of the surprise of grace, because grace does not always show up in the beginning. It is not always loud, it comes in quiet strength. In the extra breath you didn't think you had, in the door that opens just when you thought all were closed, in the stranger's kindness, in the sudden clarity. But if you've already declared your own end, you won't be able to see those things when they arrive. Your eyes will be closed, not from blindness, but from belief in your own undoing. To hold on when it would be easier to let go is not delusion, it is faith in action. Not blind faith, not foolish hope, but a deep, ancient kind of knowing. The kind that says, even now, I might rise. The kind that does not demand evidence, but waits with a steady spine. You do not have to lie to yourself. You do not have to pretend everything is fine. But you do have to speak life even in the midst of chaos. Say, I am still here. Say, this is not the end. Say, I will try again tomorrow, because those words matter. They are more than sound. They are seeds. And seeds don't grow in a day. They rest underground, unnoticed, sometimes for seasons, sometimes in the dark. But what grows in silence is still growing. What waits is not weak. You may feel stuck, stalled, broken, but do not name yourself defeated just because the world has not yet seen your rise. Do not abandon the journey while it is still unfolding. There is more to come. You may not know how or when, but that is not your burden. Your task is only this. Refuse to speak the end before the next page is written. Refuse to cast yourself as fallen before you've tried standing again. There are moments when silence is not just golden, it is life-giving. There are truths so raw, so heavy, so intimate that they were never meant to be handed over to careless ears. Not because those ears are always cruel, but because they are not prepared. They lack the depth, the reverence, the stillness needed to receive what you hold. And what you hold is not mere conversation, it is lived experience. It is memory stitched into bone. It is heartbreak that still trembles, joy that still shakes, sorrow that still burns hot beneath the skin. There are things you carry not because you want to, but because life placed them in your hands and said, This is yours to bear. But the world is loud and impatient. It demands stories. It wants the whole of you, all at once, and it wants it clean and clear and tied with a bow. And when you cannot give it that, when your pain is too fresh, your joy too wild, your truth too complicated, it grows uncomfortable. It turns curiosity into control. It asks again and again, tell me, explain yourself, make it make sense. And so you feel the pull, the pressure, the invitation to speak what should be sacred, just to soothe the room, just to belong, just to stop the asking. But you must resist that urge. You must know the value of mystery. You must understand that withholding is not always about secrecy, but about sovereignty. Your life is not a performance, and your soul is not an open letter for the world to edit. There are things that belong only to you, stories that do not require witnesses, feelings that do not need to be justified, named, or broken down into understandable pieces. The world may not understand boundaries, but your spirit does. It knows what needs protection. It knows which parts of you are still healing, still forming, still too tender to be exposed. There is danger in overexposure. We think that telling our truth, no matter how raw, is always liberating. And yes, truth-telling can be a key. It can be a way out of shame, a bridge to connection, but only when it is shared in the right time, in the right place, with the right people. Otherwise, that truth becomes weaponized, not always intentionally, but effectively nonetheless. People use what they know, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, but always in ways that remind you not everyone deserved your truth, and it's not only others. Sometimes it's your own voice that turns on you. Sometimes, after speaking too soon, you begin to feel exposed, uncertain, even regretful, because you gave too much, because you bled in a space that was not a sanctuary, because you thought sharing would lighten the load, but instead it made it heavier. That's the thing about sacred truths. They don't want to be handled by many hands. They want to be held by you, with care, with honor, with time. We live in a culture of confession where everything is meant to be shared, posted, spoken, but not every silence is a void. Not every quiet is absence. Some silences are full, brimming with wisdom, with memory, with grace. Choosing not to speak is not the same as having nothing to say. It is the choice to say, this is mine, this belongs to me, and I am allowed to keep it. There is a kind of strength that comes from not telling the story, from letting it live inside you quietly, unshaped by others' interpretations or expectations, from giving yourself space to feel the fullness of your experience without needing it to be palatable or packaged. That strength is rare. It is not loud, it does not seek applause, but it stands unshaken. It says, I do not need to be seen to be real. And sometimes, silence is not only about protection, it is about preparation. There are truths in you that are still unfolding. They are not yet ready to be named. Like a photograph developing in a dark room, they need time, shadow, and stillness. Speaking too soon is like opening the door before the image has formed. It ruins the process. It fades what was once clear. So you must trust the timing. You must trust that you will know when a truth is ready to be told and to whom. Even more than that, you must understand that some truths will never be spoken, not because they are hidden in shame, but because their power lies in being held. They are the kind of truths that live in the body, in the eyes, in the breath, between words. They are truths that shape how you move through the world, how you love, how you protect, how you walk with others. They do not need to be spoken to be known. They are known in how you live, in how you listen, in how you hold space for silence in a world that rushes to fill it.